Hello, everyone. My name is Gabrielle Viome. You can call me Gabby. I'm one of the assistant directors of admission here at Skidmore College, and I am so excited to welcome you to our Creative Thought Works series. This series aims to amplify Skidmore outcomes through monthly themed panels that reach a large audience of prospective students across the country and around the world. So, our session today is titled Creative Thought Works, Social Impact and Leadership. I'm going to ask our wonderful panelists to introduce themselves before we begin our moderated discussion, which will be recorded and available on the admissions website. And then afterwards, we're going to move into breakout rooms where panelists will be available for questions submitted through the chat feature. So with that, panelists, please share your name, graduation year, and your professional title. We're going to go in alphabetical order. So let's go ahead and start with Alex.
Everyone. So my name is Alex Ruiz. I graduated in 2022, and I am the lead college success counselor at James Shredder High School in the South Bronx. Um, yeah, that's me.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Alex. Let's go over to Cadence.
Hi, I'm Cadence. I graduated last year in 2024. Um, I guess technically I don't have my MSW yet, but I will have my master's in social work by this time next week. Um, and I'm still, thank you. And I'm still working on jobs. I just finished an internship through a hospital in my town, um, working with dual diagnosis patients. So yeah, that's what I got going on.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Cadence. And then last but not least, let's go over to Kyle, who also is actually my fiance, to be transparent.
Hey everyone, I'm Kyle Casarino. I graduated from Skidmore in 2021. Right after graduation, I taught for 3 years. I taught fourth grade for 3 years, and now I'm the home education coordinator at the local BOCES here in Saratoga.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for those introductions. So we're going to go ahead and just jump into some questions that we've got here. So at Skidmore, we believe that creative thought matters. It informs everything we do here and is a huge distinction of Skidmore. We created this series to help prospective students and their families understand this difference. So my question for you all is, how did creative thought matters influence your experience at Skidmore, and how did it influence and prepare you for what you're doing now? Do any of you want to take that on first? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I could tackle it first. One thing I think that's interesting about like the creative thought works and creative thought matters is like sometimes I don't think it necessarily seems to focus on like relationships with people. Sometimes I think it has like an artistic connotation and like blending different areas together, which that is totally a part of it. But I think for me, I really sort of feel it in terms of like my interpersonal skills. As somebody who works in the world of education, and two people who work in the world of social work, communication and being adaptable and being able to work with like a diverse range of people is absolutely essential. And no matter what you do, like that is going to apply to you. And Skidmore like really pushes you to work with different people, to value different perspectives, to think critically about how your perspective might be different for somebody else's and why it's different and how that influences how you work with them. And then also, I think Skidmore really challenged me to be reflective. Thinking about my relationship with families, my students, it's really, it really kind of instilled this sense of like ongoing reflection and like creative thinking and problem solving, which is like absolutely essential no matter what you do.
Thank you. Alex or Cadence, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I definitely, because I can echo all of that. I think that, I mean, I can also talk about it from like the creative sense. I applied to Skidmore with the intention of majoring in studio art, switched to biology, and then switched to social work, kind of all over the place, did a little bit of everything. but I was able to grow. I run a small business now, making clothing and paintings and all that. And I think that the Skidmore community, that's like the creative thought matters. I feel like very perfectly embodies exactly what I did. Like I had the support of the Skidmore community, like through being able to sell on campus. Also, everyone was very, very supportive of everything that I was doing, especially since it wasn't like my major or something that I was studying. But kind of going to what Kyle said, I think that the opportunities that Skidmore gave me in less of like an artistic kind of viewpoint. So I had a lot of on-campus jobs. I worked in the admissions office. I was an RA. I was a CA. I was doing research in like 4 different departments. I was dancing. I was volunteering. I was doing everything. And I think that the communication that Kyle was talking about, like being able to work with other people in different ways in settings that are very unique. So like in a residential life setting, it's going to be very different than like a dance setting. So being able to work with that, I think that's like a creative thought matters in like a different way. Um,
Yeah, I love that. And I think the big thing too is just like the interdisciplinary nature of Skidmore. I mean, when I graduated, I also graduated a few years ago in 2021. I did English and music. So, I mean, you're really able to have that flexibility, academically speaking. So, I love that you touched on that a little bit. And finally, Alex.
Yeah, definitely. I did social work and dance, and when I think about creative thought matters, creative thought works, I had autonomy like over every choice that like I made, not only like in the classroom but like in clubs and like activities. And it forced me to like again, I think the both the of the other panelists said it best, just like the interpersonal relationships that you have like with your peers, um, kind of like Skidmore kind of like forced me to kind of break out of my shell and have like a stutter. And it's weird. The only way you can grow like uh personally is by engaging with like other folk and having like counselors and professors and students who generally have care for who you are as like a person, has definitely like helped me grow and shine. I grew up in a family where baseball was like everything. So the first time I came home and I put on tights and I was like, hey, yeah, I'm taking ballet. It was like a big jump, but I felt like I was more of like myself. And I was for the first time I could actually express who I am and to have a sense of like comfortability on campus. And now like in my work, when I'm working with students, having like a little taste of like dance and like music and art. Um, and like being in a social work a department, I'm able to like relate more with like my young people. So that's when I think of creative thought matters. I think expression is a huge part.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thank you all so much. Those were really, really great insights. So my second question, the admissions team gets tons of questions about how Skidmore prepares their students for strong outcomes after Skidmore. So what kinds of tools did Skidmore equip you all with that have allowed you to be successful in your life after college?
I could answer this one first.
Yeah, go for it, Cadence.
Um, I think so. I mentioned before that I was doing a bunch of research. I was able to do research over the summer between my junior and my senior year. And I was able to do research not only with a professor at Skidmore, but also with a professor at the University of Albany. So I was able to build a connection with another school. And that I mean, for me personally, the connection with the University of Albany is super important because I plan on going back for my PhD. Um, and I had just gotten into University of Albany for a PhD program, so I was able to use that connection that I made in undergrad as a 20-year-old that's like going to help my future so much. And that's like something that immediately I was like, oh, that's very important. So
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. Very cool. Kyler, Alex.
I think for me, I'll have two things, but keep it kind of quick. I do want to say I think the first thing is just the rigor and the academic expectations at Skidmore are so firm and they're like so like they're very high, quite frankly, that I think you really just get used to operating at a different level. I know it might sound weird, but like when you're always operating at a certain level and like that's your baseline, then like inevitably, like when you go to tackle things that different things, like you're going to be better prepared, in terms of like, organizing about the quality of your work. That stuff really, really matters at Skidmore, and they really instill it in you as a student. And you can take that to the workplace, and it definitely transfers. And then also just the exposure. Like in the world of education, Skidmore is very well connected to a lot of like education agencies, a lot of schools, a ton of like so many districts around here, and they're always just pushing constant exposure. Skidmore they really do push learning by doing, and that's really the best way to learn. If you want to, I don't know if anybody does, but if you go into the field of education, it really is learning by doing, and Skidmore knows that, and they really have such strong connections, in the community, which is great.
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned that because I do want to touch a little bit on, we have our Career Development Center, which is such an amazing office. You can start going to them as soon as your first year. And of course, they have a lot of really wonderful connections in Saratoga Springs, the surrounding areas, etc. But also just having those connections and relationships with your professors is so, so valuable. And I think that's a huge benefit to being at a small liberal arts college. You're able to make those connections, and your professors want to reach out and be like, hey, this really cool opportunity came up. It might be something that you're interested in. So I think having those just like genuine relationships too, with both your professors and your peers is really, really beneficial. So thanks, Kyle. Alex.
Yeah, I was gonna say the network and the connections that you make from your professors and staff, and like per department, there's always one thing that they do. I think of MB 107. I'm gonna took that course, and the like ability to stand in front of 8 like professionals in that field, and Skidmore wanting to not only just like teach you how like a program works and how to like present, but actually putting you in spaces with these professionals and connecting with them super early so you get that critical feedback. I think that was one of the things that I took away the most. And with like social work, we got to meet with the National Association of Social Workers, and we had like people coming in from the field to chat with us, and I got to actually learn directly like what that means and what that looks like. And even afterwards, like the network that Skidmore has, um, even in my day to day, I'm contacting like other schools and like other like classmates and peers that work in like similar spaces and such. And even with like my like young people and students, if I have a person who's interested in music, it's always like I know a guy or like I know a person that I'm gonna connect you with. And so I think the network that Skidmore has, and because everyone at Skidmore generally just cares. It's like very easy at my work to be like, I know someone for you. And let's get you connected. So
Yeah, yeah. And I think the alumni network is just so, so amazing. I mean, our alums want to connect with current students. We host tons of career fairs all throughout the academic year. We had a really big one this past fall. We had like over 70 alums and parents of current Skidmore students and just other professionals want to come on campus and network with their current students. So just having those connections again with our alums is really, really helpful as well. So thank you all. And I mean, clearly you're all doing amazing things, and that could be a little intimidating to some students. So I want you all to imagine your 17-year-old self doing the college search, dreaming up the future. What kind of advice would you give your former self to get you to where you are today?
well, I can start this one. I think I would have told myself that you were gonna be all right. You were gonna be okay. I think when you're taking that first step in your like college journey, there's all this like uncertainty around like, am I gonna make friends? Am I gonna love like what I do? Like I also came into school thinking I'm gonna do graphic design and like studio art because I want to make anime when I'm older. And then they told me that an art class is 4 hours, and I was like, my attention span can't do that. And so I think if I can go back and tell myself that I'm gonna mess up, I'm gonna make mistakes, I'm not gonna know what's going on, I'm gonna have a semester with no major, and that it'll be fine, and that I have all of these supports and people in my corner who are gonna like fight for me, and get me to like a good place. I think that's what I would have told myself at 17, that you will be fine.
I love that.
Yes,
Cadence.
yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I went multiple semesters without having a major. I think that everything's all right, everything is going to be all right is a great little mantra, especially as a 17-year-old doing the college search. Um, I mean, I did it again, as a senior in college, looking for a grad school, and having done the college search and stressed about it for months, which I'm sure a lot of you have done, are doing, will be doing. Um, Knowing that everything's going to be okay made looking for a grad school so much easier because I didn't have the stress like, will I make friends? Will classes be okay? Because everything will work out. And as I mentioned, I came in with multiple different ideas of what I was going to do, ended up not doing any of them. So the flexibility that Skidmore was able to provide me with, and I guess the multidisciplinariness of Skidmore as a whole, really helped me because I have so many interests, and I don't think any other school would have supported them the way that Skidmore did, or at least not to like the effect that Skidmore did. And just make sure that like you know what you like, you know what you're looking for, and it'll all work out.
Totally. Thanks, Cadence.
Yeah, I'll just echo what you guys said. In terms of trying to keep that like calm, that Zen mindset, I would say like definitely stay connected. Like know that, sometimes when you're going through something like this, it feels like you're literally the only one, and nobody else has like gone through it. Nobody can like possibly know like what you're feeling, but so many people have, and there are so many people, whether it's already in your, local communities or circles, or even people who, are at Skidmore, like people are there to help you. And there's other people that have been through your situation, and have come out the other side. So just, stay connected, and then also just stay open. Like Cadence touched on, Skidmore and, a lot of colleges, they provide so many great opportunities, and it's really, at times it can feel overwhelming, but it's really such a blessing, to have, the opportunity to be able to explore these things. So definitely, definitely go into it with an open mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did actually think of another question as well as you all were talking. So I know for some of you, like you might have like changed your mind a little bit, Cadence, for example. What kind of made you all end up landing on either social work or education? Like, was there a specific class you took? Like, what was it that kind of made that specific program stick?
Yes, there definitely was a class. It's a hot take. No one really likes it. It's the research class that all social workers are required to take and no one wants to take. And it was the first class that I took. I've told this story in info sessions multiple times, but I was registered. It was my going into my sophomore spring, and I was registered for organic chemistry too, because I was determined that I was going to be a doctor. And I was crying in my kitchen, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And my mom was like, take like a psychology class. And I was like, I can't do like, I don't want to do any more STEM stuff right now. And she's like, take a social work class. And I was like, I guess I'll try it out. And I took um, a qualitative research class, and I loved it. And I think the professor was, it was an 8:15 class, and the professor sat down with me before class one day and was like, here is like, here, because I was worried that there weren't any like job opportunities with social work because I didn't really know much about social work, because it wasn't something that I was pursuing. And she sat down with me, took like 15, 20 minutes out of her day early in the day, and was like, this is what you can do to help yourself. Like, these are like different careers. This is what I've done. This is what other people I know have done. And having that support, I was like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. And seeing all of like the different opportunities, like social work, you're not just going to work in a school. Like that's not the only thing that you're going to do. You're not just going to be a therapist. There are so many options. She was like the dean of a school or something, like a small little school. And I was like, that's so cool. That's so fun and different and something that I didn't know about. So there was definitely a class and there was a professor, um, but it wasn't like it all worked out very well because it was right when I was fading. I started college during COVID. All of my classes and labs were on Zoom. Like I was having a tough time. I was burnt out. And it was like right as that burnout was really, really hitting, social work got introduced and I was like, this is perfect. And now here we are. So everything worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I think is really nice, I mean, essentially all of our students come in undecided. Of course, some of you might know exactly what you want to do, which is amazing. But again, you're 17, 16, maybe years old, and it's totally okay if you don't know yet. You have until the end of your sophomore year to declare at Skidmore, so you really kind of get those first couple of years to just figure things out a little bit. And I really like what Kaden said too. I mean, there's such an umbrella of things that you can do under so many different programs, which is nice. Like it's not just, it doesn't have to be just one thing. And I think Kyle's another really great example of that as well. You know, starting off as like a teacher, doing the education major, but ended up going into, you know, a different kind of program, doing home education. So there's a lot of different pathways that you can find yourself on. But yeah, Alex, Kyle, if either of you want to jump in?
I think for me, like one thing that and this is like a plug-in to the Skidmore professors is the thing that really got me excited about education and honestly other areas and classes that I took was like how passionate the professors were. Like they're sort of like passion, like it really does kind of like rub off on you. And like if you already sort of like something and you meet like literal like experts in the field and you're with them like every week and you're learning from them, it like feels really good. Like in the world of education, I had professors who, whether they're, science or literacy or theory or working with students with exceptionalities, they each sort of brought certain expertise and different backgrounds. And it really was, seeing the professors of, their passions and it really does rub off on you. And like I said, if you already sort of have like a affinity towards a certain area, which you might, it's just going to be probably amplified when you get to professor and you meet super beyond impressive people in the field that you're interested in. So definitely great professors.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex.
Yeah, I was gonna say for me, it definitely was a class. It was called Populations at Risk. I took that course and like it just like blew my mind. And I think it was like it was the first time I like saw the world outside of the bubble of like New York City. Um, and then I went to approach the professor afterwards, and I sat with him for like 20 minutes. And then I could feel the genuine care from him. And I was like, wait a minute, you telling me you can get paid just for having a good heart and like caring for people? This is awesome. And I like to talk a little bit, like my like stutter, but I think that's what sparked my interest like overall. And I was like, wait a minute, like I can get paid to work with my like community back home and support them. And I think that's kind of what just like set me down this track. Like I loved art, I love like business, but I feel like I wouldn't have been happy in that space. Not like no shade to business, it is great. I love those who do it. I just knew it wasn't for me. I feel like MB 107 and I was so nervous being up in front of all those professionals. I was like, I can't do that. uh, but doing like social work. Then when I had my field placement and I was at like a school working with these kids, I was like, oh, I'm locked in. I love this work so much. I need to be in this space in some capacity. So I think yeah, that was my story.
Thank you all. Yeah, and Alex, I did MB 107 too, so I totally feel you on that. But again, thank you all so much for sharing your experiences.